Hello, hello.
Hi, Leonie.
How's it going?
It's going well. I am so happy to be in your place. Really
Yeah.
nice and cozy.
I feel
Travel.
like we've done a full circle now because we started in your kitchen and now we're in my kitchen.
Yeah. And in between, we traveled through for business, and then we met randomly. And I think that's what's really nice about our setup. It's just you don't need to be very over polished
Yeah,
to
yeah.
do a podcast and talk about things. You can be on
Yeah.
the go.
But I feel like that's also reflective of our lives, right? Because
Yeah.
we are on the go and we're going to different places and we're doing different things. And I don't ever want that to be a blocker for us to not be able to do this. But I know that one of the constants is that we always have food.
Yes. We need to fuel ourselves to fuel our conversations. And today I
Totally.
got pizza.
Nice.
Just, basic margaritas, all good, and some olives on the side.
Backed by
Um,
popular demand.
yes, and they're grilled as well.
The best
Your
ones.
favorites.
The
So
best kind of olives. I love these ones.
we're repeating.
Yeah.
But yeah, um, and the topic I am thinking about is currently a big buzzword. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone is using it as a term to sell, to bluff, to over index on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yes, you guessed it.
AI.
Hmm.
The minute that you said bluff and over index, I was like, I know exactly what you're talking about right now. And it's like this I almost see it as this shield or a black box type of thing because it's just a word and there's so many options of and so many variances. Is that even a word, variance?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay, well, it is now. So Oxford Dictionary, start putting that in if it's not there already. There's so many like variances as to like what AI is and what it can do in marketing. So when somebody says like, "Oh, we're AI driven," or "It's AI this, it's AI that," what does it actually mean? And I want to get into the nuances on from a creative side. Obviously, there's loads from a performance side, but it's just it's such a big topic to understand and such a new topic to understand that I'm hoping this is not going to be our last conversation about that.
It's an ever evolving thing, but also it's not, AI has been around for a very, very long time. It has been used in, all different kinds of industries, infrastructure, information technology, Internet of Things.
Mm,
It's embedded in everything, but we weren't just aware of it, or maybe the conversation was not all over the top. Even the old cameras had AI in them.
mm,
There's image treatment after you take a photo with your phone. Even the first earlier smartphones had
true.
had those, and that's all AI.
Mm,
Detecting things and being trained and adjusting brightness and so on and so forth. And
yeah, yeah,
it's also in the music industry. It's everywhere.
yeah.
But right now it's just like when you talk about like I mentioned buzzword because there's a time where every food brand was saying 100% fresh or organic and so on and so forth. This is what we're actually experiencing right now
Yeah, yeah.
in the business world. So
But I feel like there's always a buzzword in the business world because before AI, it was machine learning. And then that was like the biggest thing for a couple of years. And then before that, it was big data. And that was it for a couple of years. So it's all been leading to AI, but it's just like, I think, and you'll know this, when you've been in it long enough, you start to see this and you're like, okay, this is the next wave of what everybody's talking about and excited about.
and I think the longest kind of buzzword that stood out, like when in the content and creative part of, like, if you're working with social media content and or you're working in organic or paid or whatever, UGC, influencer marketing,
Mm.
and it was influencers, and then it became micro influencers and so on and so forth.
Hmm.
So it's repackaging of what's the latest and greatest,
Yeah.
and the latest also doesn't necessarily mean it needs to be the greatest.
No.
So
I mean, sometimes I think it's very easy to get caught up in all of these trends and it's good to adopt them, it's good to test them. But sometimes it's also good to remember the roots, right? What is the bread and butter of what you're doing?
mhm.
Don't get so caught up to the point where you you completely lose sight of the things that are actually making you money. Like how can you use AI or whatever the latest buzzword is to support what you're already doing, not take over.
Yeah. So actually, I wanted to focus more AI in the creative content
Yeah,
um, space
yeah.
since we work in advertising. But also a lot of the work I kind of always explore is how do I mix strategy
Mhm.
with creativity and with data
Mhm.
together. Make it measurable, but then look at efficient ways. What is the state of the art of like pre-production, post-production, or even the creation work at its finest? So, yeah, I wanted to kind of have that conversation with you
Yeah,
and
yeah.
see where are the areas that maybe are confusing you? Where are the areas you see the biggest potential? What is your experience so far? I've done my own experiments here and there
Mhm.
just to stress test and create proofs of concept. Um, the thing is, every time you try something this week, the next week you have an update, and then you have to start all over again because you have much more capabilities or much
Mhm.
more data trained sets and so on and so forth.
Mhm. Sorry, I'm just crunching the pizza.
Oh, no worries. You're inviting me to have also like maybe
Of course.
a bite.
Definitely. And also, yeah, let's talk first about the about I'm interested from your side, as you said, with all of the changes, like you said, every week is a new update. That's completely changed the way that you work as a creative. And one thing I also want to understand is, does it scare you?
Not at all.
No,
No.
because I've heard a lot of creative people saying like, "Oh, well, everything's just AI generated now, so there's no room for us, and there's no room for humans, and things like that." So I want to understand what your take, because I feel like when it comes to AI, and I've seen some of the things that you've done, and you've opened my eyes to some possibilities with
Mm.
AI. I feel like you've taken the bull by the horns with it, and you're like, "Okay, I'm embracing this. I'm doing it," and you're really using it to adapt your work, not to take over, as we mentioned in the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm gonna start with the fear
Hmm.
bit, and then we'll talk about the use cases. So
Hmm.
when I'm starting with how I'm looking at this, I think the future is more about if you are a great photographer
Hmm.
or a graphic designer or have a illustrator, so on, um, you still have your knowledge, you still have your taste. Design and art is subjective. The possibility for you is to act like so before you had to rely only on your skill and other people should complement your work. And
Hmm.
if they don't complement it, that risks your delivery, especially on multi mega projects that where you have a lot of different people with different skill sets that are joining together.
Hmm.
What's that's opening is like if I'm an illustrator and a photographer and I know design theory very well and color theory and so on, and I have my style, I have already became an agency rather than a one person who does one thing.
Mm, okay.
So that's why it excites me. It
Hmm.
excites me because actually, if I want to right now act as a director of photography or cinematography, or I'm looking at video editing, it's actually pushing me to learn the tactics and the ways so I can be able to have the proper conversation with AI to give me what I want as an output.
Hmm.
So it's sparking my curiosity to become more of a jack of all trades
Yeah.
and a master of one. I think the master of one is still good in specific use cases,
Hmm.
but it's not sustainable for our economic model and for the market right
Hmm.
now.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean you lose on things, but you can have collaborations. Like if I really master cinematography and video editing and narration and voiceovers and whatever, and then someone else masters animation, vector art, illustration, and so on, then both are masters in their fields within AI, but they are jack of all trades in motion versus static,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they can combine that together.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they would be replacing someone because there is a place for human validation and authenticity to come in, and that would be the a checkpoint in every creative project.
Hmm.
So you move from being the task doer to the consultant or the advisor because you know the thing. Now we have to understand with that comes what I fear is the saturation of everyone faking it until they make it,
Mm-hmm.
and then that overshadowing the real talented people. But the real talented people can, in one or two projects, move away all the clutter,
Mm-hmm.
because there are lots of individuals out there that are creating right now companies, and they're claiming, to have skills and sets and whatever, and they're training a couple of agents to kind of do that, and then outsourcing and saying, I did this with AI, and it's a lie. You cannot do this with AI yet, for example.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's going to take a bit of more effort to find out um what's a lie and what's true.
Yeah.
And just like everything, when the internet just blew up, how many e-commerce websites were there and who dominated at the end, for example, regionally, geographically, and so on.
Mm.
That's what's going to happen
Yeah.
in the future. You're going to have those households that are going to, you're going to be like a reset button where you'll
Mm.
find the people who really master are going to complement with AI, and others are going to start from the bottom and also reach high grounds for specific positioning and collaborating in that. So that's, to answer you, the fear is more about like how we use it rather than what it's capable of,
Mm-hmm.
personally for me.
Yeah. I
um
guess just to underline something you're saying, to make sure that the way that I see it is like because it's such a new thing and everybody's jumping on it, there's a lot of dust, right? Everybody's moving around, and at some point the dust is going to settle and we're going to see like who are the pros, because in the end AI, there's still talent that needs to go into it,
yeah,
right? There's still work. It is still a craft that is to be mastered, just a different craft than the ones that we were using before. So at some point the dust will settle and we'll see who are the masters of it and who are the ones that are maybe not so good, just like in every other
yeah,
industry.
in
Yeah.
every industry you'll have the regulation and the correction, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
um but yeah, and the other fold of the question, so we talked about fear, and then
Mm-hmm.
we talked about, can you remind me what was the other part? Did you also forget?
I also forgot.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so we'll get back to it once it comes
The
back.
other part was more about like how it's changing the workflows.
Okay, so when it comes to workflows, what specifically are you talking about? Like the workflows of, let's say, a creative studio, the workflows of a marketing team, and so on.
I would like to understand your side of the, because I've got a whole bunch of ideas about how AI would benefit a marketing team, but I want to understand from your side, like how does it work from a, just purely creative? So like maybe you're in a creative studio, you're in a creative team, you've gotten a brief. How does AI support you there?
I mean, first of all, the first part is when you have a brief, and so there's the technical part and there's the aspirational part. The
Mm-hmm.
technical part is to kind of dissect that brief to small chunks
Mm-hmm.
and use AI to help you understand your output, your production, who's needed on the team, um, maybe creating a whole operational model that's going to make it much more efficient,
Mm-hmm.
and so on. So that's the operational part. The aspirational part is just going to start, okay, here's the big idea. How can I search for insights that are going to solidify this?
Like brainstorming.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So you could do a brainstorming that starts with ideas and then feed it to AI and refine it, polish it. But what's really much more important is to kind of go and do that deep research in no time. And that means strategically, you can toggle on, let's say, Perplexity deep research, or like OpenAI's deep research, or even Gemini, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
You can collect all the briefs and notes and assets on, let's say, Notebook LM, and then try to understand, like, you could feed with the assets, but also you could go out and research. For example, we're having pizza right now, and there's a campaign, let's say, to promote this new pizza coming out, and it has a specific it's a limited edition,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to be launched during a specific moment. And
Mm-hmm.
let's think of a moment, back to school, for instance. Yeah, going into research here is looking at the first campaigns of back to school, the most winning ones. What were the narratives there? How could you look at the consumption of pizza with back to school, do we want to tap into insights like, okay, the pe- people tend to consume pizza and enjoy it more when it's a leftover the second day in the morning, for example, as an insight towards, is it like a weekend kind of treat?
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to associate it with, let's say, lunch and learn
Mm-hmm.
with back to school? So all of those aspects, if you go and give them much more depth and deep research, then you can look at white papers released, ingredients, moments, and get back from the AI an intensive, deep down analysis of trends, consumer behavior, um, visual treatments,
Mm-hmm.
moments that are sparky, like in the consumer journey, and so on and so forth.
And how long would that have taken you without AI beforehand?
I think if you have a strategy team that works with your creative studio, then they would feed you those things. And if you have a research team that does that, then you could bridge the ideas you have from your brainstorming and with that research in order to create an impactful idea or
But
a
that's like
concept.
having two whole other teams, right? That's a
Yeah.
big
And
operation.
usually that would take, if you want the depth and if you're like pitching big time,
Mm.
you might need somewhere between 3 days and a week to gather the data, to feel comfortable with a bit of direction
Mm-hmm.
if you're convinced, but then you might use another week to kind of challenge and stress test the ideas and so on. With what I'm talking about, you can have that in a day
Wow.
and you can parse it and you can sit back and use that tweak to challenge the idea. And then you're cutting your not only the brainstorming or the insights or trends hunting and so on or research in a week, but you could have it in a day and then you could use that week to kind of elaborate on your idea and then maybe instead if you wanted to pitch one big idea or
Mm-hmm.
two, you right now have the efficiency of pitching four or
That's super
three.
cool.
Yeah.
So it's basically just giving us the space to get even more creative because instead of spending the time and the brain space and the energy to gather all of the initial research, it's like, okay, the research is there. Let's go back into thinking again, like thinking outside of the box. And
It's a level up, Leonie.
yeah.
Like if you are an art director with AI, you can free some space
Mm-hmm.
to think like a creative director and then
Mm.
let the graphic designer think like an art director and the creative director thinks like an executive creative director.
Wow.
So it's a level up in terms of like, because when you remove the execution, you have so much more time for brain gymnastics and
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and thinking about things and so on. And therefore, what happens is that you're really diminishing the bottom line of finalizing the asset or just moving a logo from left to right and so on,
Yeah, yeah.
or editing a photo
Yeah.
to think about rationale, storytelling, and so on to reinforce the idea
Yeah.
or reinforce the concept.
It's a similar thing that's happening in marketing, right? With the all of the campaigns and the AI assisted features in Google and Meta and all the rest of it. I mean, we used to spend most of our days changing bids, making audience adjustments, building lookalike audiences, uploading creatives, like all of these very nitty gritty details that took a lot of time and you had to think about it and you had to really be on it. Now that these campaigns are mostly AI assisted. By the way, I'm not saying that everybody's campaigns need to be AI assisted because we've got to test this, but for the most part, they are more AI assisted, and this leaves a whole lot more brain space because now got time. So instead of managing like 10 campaigns with all of the ad set segmentation and I've got to monitor everything, the campaign stack is far more consolidated. So then I start to think, okay, what are the consumers? What headspace are they in when they're seeing the ads? And then you start to become more like into consumer psychology, and so it's also up leveling. It's blurring the lines between what what there would have been different roles in the past. Like, it's allowing more space for people to move a bit more freely between these different roles. And I think it sounds like that's what's happening in the creative teams as well.
Absolutely, but there's a lot of other things that are challenges right now. It's very stressful to keep up with the news and what's happening, because if you're creative and you're looking at um you get excited, you see, okay, I could, let's say, design a character,
Mm.
and that character could be the face of my brand, and then I could then animate it with AI. Then I'm an animator and an illustrator.
So then it's like, how do you sell yourself? Is that the stressful part?
No, the stressful part is the execution of AI is not perfected.
Mm.
Let's say you don't have consistent characters right now. It's a big challenge when AI in the creative industry with prompt to image, for example, you always had, now we're done with this problem, but there was this limitation of the hands always showed, let's say, 6 or 7 fingers. So
It's
there was
always
like,
the hands. Always the
yeah.
hands.
And there is also right now, so we're done with the hands. We moved to facial expressions, for example, and now the technology is there and we're past that checkpoint. The problem right now is character consistency and also physics, like motion.
Hmm.
So you'll have a lot of failures in executing, and it becomes very expensive. Let's say if you've relied and you said, I'm an illustrator and I'm gonna create that character, or I'm gonna create that ad and I wanna animate it and put it into motion,
Hmm.
you have a 50-50 chance. It's that much high that you're gonna get failed attempts, and then it's gonna become very expensive because you're going to burn your tokens very quickly.
Mm.
So
When you say tokens, what do you mean?
so when you have subscription with let's say Sora or Flux or Runway and all those other models, you pay money
Hmm.
for a certain amount of tokens.
Okay.
And then you could have, let's say, 2,000 tokens.
Hmm.
And one generation of video would take away 30 tokens.
Okay.
So even if you've done the best prompt engineering, which I think, sometimes you could be very detailed, and there's something we call negative prompting. So you would give your prompt and say, I want an image of a pizza with a family. I want it to be at night, cozy setting. Um, the backdrop has a window and it's snowing, yada, yada, yada.
Hmm.
Okay. And you can put negative prompting and you say, um, no 6 fingers, no disfigures, no whatever. Um, and if you want to specifically say, um, no, for instance, kids.
Hmm.
I want a family, but I don't want kids,
Yeah.
for example. Um, that's negative prompting. And sometimes you spend so much time to give the details, and you still get something like, I don't know, instead of it being a cozy environment, or the motion, for example, if it's a video, would be like, it doesn't make sense. It's like a jittery motion, or let's
Hmm.
say, the pizza, one person would like take a piece and then
The
his
whole
hand
pizza
would
comes up.
morphs and pierces the pizza from the other side. Those are
Turns
the
into
things. So
cheese fingers.
the stressful part is that the technology is so exciting and it's impressive.
Mm.
But if you're working with brands and brand guidelines and so on, you are definitely going to need, instead of, let's say, a filming crew, if you're relying on AI, you're going to need really top-notch skill in video editing and treatment,
Hmm.
post-production,
Hmm.
to make sure that you're offsetting for the 50% of error and those things.
Okay.
Now, sometimes it's very simple. So let's say I have I don't know, I'm promoting a soda can, and I just want in the background to have a drizzle of water falling. That's manageable. Right now, the AI does it. It's fine. It's good with effects like that, or like, simple motion aspects. But if I say, oh, I want the soda to levitate and rotate and change colors and then get splashed by whatever, you might get 60% of that or 70%,
Hmm.
and then you need to do other ones and maybe stitch them
Okay.
in order to correct that,
Yeah.
right?
So there's still the human element that's needed.
That's what we talk about human validation. So
Yeah.
you're now a director it's like what you've done is you've hired people who are capable, which is the AI,
Mm-hmm.
to do what you want, but packaging it is going to be on you. Directing it is going to be on you.
Mm-hmm.
Quality assurance is going to be on you. So you're taking more of a consultative approach
Yeah, yeah.
again. And that's why I say there are lots of people who find a lot of joy in the work itself, but
Mm-hmm.
you could still have joy because I can right now take a paper and a pen and draw the best illustration. Instead of perfecting the color, I'm really perfecting the lines and the character and so on, and I could just scan them and or take pictures of them and feed them to AI and bring it to life in the same day. And instead of my project is to be just to give illustrations or storyboards, I can create a Pixar high quality show reel of my work
Mm-hmm.
animated and go and get a job for that, or pitch it for a TV commercial,
Mm-hmm.
or use it in social media to kind of, in an upper funnel manner, to promote, let's say, a product,
Yeah, yeah.
or even blend it to an existing content. Let's say if you're running carousel ads for static and you have a photo of a model and you have the rights and stuff. Now there are lots of great use cases that we can talk about as well with AI, where you don't need to get too much creative. You have the model, you have the rights, you did the photography or the photo shoot like 2 years ago, and now you want to change the outfits with your new collection.
Yeah.
That's super exciting
Yeah.
because you don't need to uh
Reshoot everything, right?
exactly.
Cost effective.
Yeah.
Wow. That's really cool.
There's so many things where literally right now we can go out and I can take a photo of you and make it seem like Leonie has been modeling for 70 of the new outfits that were out right now. And I
Wow.
use it on my ecom website and I use it in I don't know, very quick video edited with audio and so on, and remove the background, change the setting of the background based on your outfit.
Man,
So that's treatment.
that is gonna blow that is gonna blow like I'm thinking in terms of performance marketing here, like catalog based ads. That is gonna blow them out of the water. Because the problem is with catalog based ads now, even with the most advanced, let's take Meta, I want to call it DPA because I'm old school, Advantage Plus,
Okay.
because they keep on changing the name of these things. um, even with the most advanced campaigns, in the end, you're still limited to a certain extent by the images that are in the catalog. And of course you can create wonderful templates on top of that and all the rest of it. And you can do more like AI generated templates, but I think the real the real impressive thing is going to be, the real game changer is going to be when, so let's say, for example, if you've got, I don't know, a jumper, a sweater for my American counterparts. When you've got a jumper and you've only got flat shots of the jumper, and maybe you're thinking, oh, but I want to test this on a model shot, and maybe you have a picture of a model. At one point you would have, I remember working in e-commerce, you'd have to make sure that everything, all the items that you wanted to advertise, you would have to put a request in that they get shot on the model as part of the photo shoot. Whereas now we can just put that on the model. And as you say, we can change it. We can put the model into different oh my God, contextual advertising, all from a catalog.
And you're just talking about static. Imagine that model, you just have a static image of it, of the model facing front,
Mm-hmm.
and you want a side image or a back image,
Yeah.
or you want the model to walk as if
Oh my God, runway.
exactly and approaching the camera. You could start your catalogs where you're talking about those static ads by, for every product, create emotion
Mm-hmm.
and bring those catalogs to life, where I would see in the first card Leonie wearing a red dress approaching the camera and then moving back, and then I would have a slideshow of the product.
Mm-hmm.
I could zoom into the texture, to the size, the all those other aspects, the unique selling propositions
Yeah,
of
yeah.
that product and so on.
You could
But
even
then
create characters and stuff, right?
like next step, let's say I want to go crazier on creative, I could just take that same image of Leonie wearing the red dress and turn it into 3D.
So cool.
Right? And then but it depends on the brand, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Again, where does this really matter? If I was right now sitting in a creative studio and you come to me and you say, we're an ecom brand. And why would you want to do 3D? I'm like, okay, I saw in your brief that you are partnering with this gaming company, with Roblox or with, I don't know,
Fortnite. Yeah,
Fortnite.
because they have whole arenas in that game and stuff like
Yeah,
that,
I
don't
mean,
they?
I was like, do you think you could actually have that character from your TVC become a digital asset in the game, for instance? And therefore, if you have a sponsorship and you can work on this, it's super, super, super lucrative to repurpose your assets and turn them into 3D and videos. And that's exactly the work I am trying to experiment with.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not looking right now for quality because I know AI is still reaching that, and we're
Yeah.
getting close and
Yeah.
we're moving super quick. From one
Mm.
week to one week, the progress is as if like in month.
Wow.
But what is really exciting is testing the use cases.
An ideation.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So on my LinkedIn page, I've been like, um, testing, for example, I took this Nike shoes. It was just a static DPA with the price and everything. And I was like, okay, let's say this is a message that needs to be, and it was just a normal kind of like promotional old price, new price. I'm like, okay, how can we bring this to life?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say it's a hot drop, it's or let's say limited stocks, or I don't know, it's a limited edition and it's a hot drop, and then you like we got like smoke levitating, like coming out of the shoes, like that animation kind of stops you from the scroll
Yeah.
because right now
Yeah. Seeing smoking shoes.
anyone watching this episode is creative is like that's not creative, you're just adding smoke. Yeah, I'm not talking about award-winning creative. I'm talking about stop, like thumb scrolling,
Yeah. Yeah.
like you need to
Something to
stop the
catch
scroll.
somebody's eye, right? In
Attention
the end.
crafted,
Yeah. Yeah.
of course. The award winning is on another level, and that's where you think about, the script writing and everything. You want
Mm-hmm.
to invoke the emotion, but right now you want to invoke transaction for that shoes, and you don't have the budget, whatever. You need that return on ad spend, and you want to repurpose something quickly.
Yeah.
One of my favorite experiments was taking a Nike's Jordan ad from the 50s, 1950s,
I saw
during
this.
Christmas.
Yeah. I loved it.
And they were like Jordan, like they were like just sneakers like out of the chimney,
Mm-hmm.
and I was wondering, like, what if we reveal Santa wearing those and Santa goes down and then he jumps into the living room and just approaches the camera and so on. So it's just taking a very old ad and bringing it to life and just, giving it a bit motion and so on. So it played with nostalgia. It's like, okay, there's so many use cases that we can do with this.
You've done I've seen a lot of things that you're doing, like when you're posting and stuff like that. And we'll also link your portfolio in the show notes for anybody that wants to see, because you are doing some really cool stuff where you're kind of breaking you're not kind of, you're breaking the idea that that budget is limiting creative, and yeah, it's a bit crunchy, right? You're breaking the idea that budget is limiting creative, that you have to constantly be creating new all the time, because there's been quite a few things where you've repurposed like static images and you've added motion to them and they look super cool. One of them, I can't remember what you did, but it really reminded me of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and I was like, but it was a fashion thing. I don't know. You're gonna have to look in the portfolio for this, because
What was it?
was it something with balloons? Where like something was turning into balloons, and I was honestly, I looked at it and I was like, "What is happening there?" And it reminded me of that scene in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory when the girl eats the bubble gum and then she starts to expand into the blueberry.
Yeah, it was just a narrative about so Cost the brand,
Mm-hmm.
the clothing brand. So, they focus a lot on, having quality, not quantity, and it was just talking about like how much everything is so inflated, like fast fashion and all that kind of stuff. So I took a couple of static images and a shoes that gets inflated so it pops, but like that was one effect that was applied to 7 or 8 different photos.
Yeah.
And at the end, I think I used Pika Labs.
Mm-hmm.
That's a brilliant company. What they're doing is, um, you know, creating those templates that are funny. And I was thinking from an advertising lens, how can I build a narrative? And that is an ad that is fully crafted within 1 hour using 7 static images, adding a bit of like a dramatic effect from audio.
Mm-hmm.
You can add narration and you end up with your messaging,
Builds a story.
and that's it.
Amazing. Amazing, amazing, amazing. I love it. Do you think it's ever been before? Like, I feel like every time that there's something new, like when you were talking before, one of the things that I was thinking is like, anything's possible these days, and my mind was going all over the places, and I can see yours is also, I think, more than mine. And I was wondering, when video first came out, do you think people were thinking anything's possible? And then in, I don't know, 10 years time, is there going to be something even more? But right now with what you were saying about, yeah, you can change images into video, and you can put like different, like when you were talking about the example of me, you can put me in different outfits and in different contexts without me even having to be part of a photo shoot. It really does feel like anything's possible.
It is, and I think my prediction. I love your question. I think we've perfected static. We are almost perfecting cinematic video storytelling.
Hmm.
Like you could do trailers that Hollywood are doing right now in your room within 1 hour.
Hmm.
I think where this is going is it's going to be super interested of how interesting from a creative aspect and brands. How are they going to tell their stories in augmented reality,
Hmm.
enriched with AI?
Mm.
So remember that 3D character that I told you about. That is Leonie in red dress. The next challenge is how do I, work with partners like Snap and all the spectacles and
Hmm.
Meta, Ray-Ban glasses and so on to inject experiences with brands that could digitize their assets
Hmm.
with AI, give them a lot of flexibility to go 3D and inject those to augmented spaces.
Mm.
That's where I think most of the competition is gonna be in the future. I don't know when, but we're getting like we are going to reach a stage where everyone can do very good, decent, compelling video production.
Yeah.
And now the challenge will be how can I create a new architecture where I
Mm.
take statics and video and 3D and illustrations and storytelling and put them in an experiential context. That's where it's gonna go.
Yeah.
We're all gonna be wearing, uh, augmented pieces across, and it's already like getting there. But you're already seeing AI being assisted in, let's say, conversations in wearables. But also, what I'm trying to talk about is the much more investment in the visual experience
Hmm.
uh, with how much AI is going to push augmented reality. It's
Yeah.
going to be crazy.
Yeah. I remember working on some augmented reality ads in back in like 2017, 2018 when it was when I was working at Zalando.
Okay.
It was with Meta. We were working on sunglasses, and I remember working with the engineers, just trying to build them. And it was at that point, it was so hard because it was like every part of like every angle had to be perfectly put into the AI. I can't exactly remember how they're doing it, but I remember sitting beside the engineer that I was working with at the time. I was like, okay, take deep breaths, because it was, and that was before, that was when we were still in the machine learning wave. It would not entered the AI era at that point. Yeah.
The buzzy.
Yeah, when we're looking at the buzzword
Yeah,
waves.
that's interesting times, and I think we are going to see maybe by mid 2025 a big leap
It's
in
only
terms
four
of
months
things.
away.
Yeah, yeah. It's every week is bringing something new, and there's
Mm.
this race, and the winners are going to emerge, and they're going to consolidate all the power of and integrate everything together.
Yeah.
It's now very scattered, and everyone is like trying to take a piece of the pie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I would like to finalize by asking you, where do you see the best use cases in your field and line of work and biggest opportunities? And we can close with this.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think as a performance marketer, there's two main opportunities that I see. One is in testing, because obviously with videos, it's 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 wide open in terms of how many elements are in a video, right? When you've got a static image, there's only so many elements of what you can see in that particular image at any one time. But with a video, you've obviously got like all of the changes, the change rate, and all of the rest of it. So I think it would be so helpful to have AI tools to help to analyze the performance, but not only the performance of the video, but the elements within it, so that you can you can really understand in a quick way, because for a human to do that, to literally go through the video, because when you're looking at what's the best, why does something perform? The best way to do that is to break it down into all of the elements and to spot trends and patterns over time. So that might mean, over the next 3 months, you see all of the videos that have very quick cuts are performing better than the ones that have slow cuts, or all of the videos that have a person looking at the camera showing some emotion, they work better than videos where the person's not looking at the camera, or maybe where there's not a person. But for somebody to go through all of these videos, when you're doing it for static, as I mentioned, it's a lot easier, but to go through all those videos, that's super time consuming, and to like tag everything and create this kind of metadata. So I see something that would be really useful is to have some kind of AI generated analysis of what's already running, to give people a direct feedback loop. And the next phase would even be that it doesn't have to, the feedback loop of what's performing doesn't go to a person, but goes back to the AI that's generating it, so it can just constantly self-learn. Exactly. So that's on the side of it when it's already live, like when the ads are already running. And on the side where they are about to run, or before they're running, is something that we've already talked about. I think we mentioned it even in the last podcast episode, but really like this analysis tool on what chance does this ad actually have? And maybe it's, because you mentioned about you mentioned that the creative, let me just think of how to frame this now. You mentioned that creative production has become cheaper, faster, and easier, but that there are also iteration processes to it. And could it be that we already have like an AI predictive, like performance predictor early on in the creation process, before you go through that stage of refining it and correcting any hallucinations or whatever you call them, that it's like, oh, do you know what? This hasn't really got a very good chance because of XYZ. We're seeing this working. So something that reduces wastage, that gives you signals way earlier on, and that is already learning from data in the industry. And I'm not talking about best practices that the channels release, and talking about what's actually live and what's actually really happening.
I think that is doable, but not on a scalable manner. You need to, as a brand, or let's say for an agency, or you're working with your customers, build their machine learning model to do this, because technology, the good news, exists. Right now, if you go to Opus Clip and you show them a video, they will spit out 8 or 9, score them.
True, they have a virality score.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what happens?
I tested those, by the way. They're not accurate.
Okay. But I mean, it's just gimmicks. But what I'm focusing is on the creative, picking the highlights and putting them, knowing. So that means you are viewing and analyzing the video frame by frame. So that's there.
Yeah.
Now the thing is, how can you personalize it to you, to your brand, to your goals, to your metrics? And the technology is there. It just needs to be packaged, and it just needs to be trained. That's it. I would definitely say, you, like, yesterday on LinkedIn, I saw someone post, I don't remember. That was a breakthrough for me in video analytics. Someone used OpenAI in some fashion where they uploaded, I think they posted the video on LinkedIn and X. They uploaded videos and they had the videos analyzed frame by frame for performance.
Wow.
So we're getting there. We're getting there.
Nice.
It's not the technology, it's the use case, the packaging, and the personalization. And I believe in a couple of months, someone will productize this. Right now, AI is not going to be what's new or how much groundbreaking the update is. We're going to reach a place where everyone can do the same quality, but the difference is going to be in how much those different AI agents are working together to give you a powerful combo.
Yeah.
Whether it is producing a movie or an ad or a specific article or so on. For measurement, it's very different for every advertiser.
Yeah.
And that's why the learnings you get from an automotive brand are not going to be applied for a travel brand. And that's why there's before all of that, segmentation
Mm-hmm.
and enrichment per vertical,
Yeah.
per funnel is going to give you
Per
perfect
location as
results
well.
per location.
Like the way that, say, for example, the audience in China consumes media is vastly different to the way that, in Europe or America.
As you're seeding first, and then you're going to harvest
The crops, the AI crops.
AI.
Oh, I'm so excited about what's to come. I really am. I mean, sometimes I know that there's a lot of fear around AI because everybody keeps on saying it's taking over. I do, by the way, when I speak to ChatGPT, use my please and thank you just in case they ever do. But no, I think like it's up leveling us. It
Yeah.
really is.
And then you have the AIs that are going to be also, everyone's talking about Grok's model. It is very uncensored,
Mm.
like where, yeah, I can imagine like how much, when you speak to the model, you can get super sarcastic, all that kind of stuff. So I hope we regulate more.
Yeah.
But like
Let's
every
be nice to
technology,
them.
TV can harm you, can be beneficial. The internet, yeah, is no different, but it's just like very much capable.
Hmm.
And we need to be very. I think right now there's a lot of AI acts happening around the world where you want to regulate and
Yeah.
put the guardrails. It's not about the intention; it's about like how fast you move in order to make sure that the technology is in the right hands.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I agree. Thank you so much for your insights.
thank you.
I always any podcast episode that we do where I get to watch your creative brain coming up with all of these ideas, I'm just like, this is so cool. I love it.
I'm not gonna take all the credit. You feed you feed me with such ideas, and your questions are always things that I'm interested to kind of like
Thank you.
deconstruct and go deeper with you. So, such a pleasure geeking with you.
Yes, we love being geeks and eating pizza.
Absolutely. Until next
Nice.
time.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. See ya.
See ya.